Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fan Frenzy podcast. I'm your host, Chris Borgia, alongside co-hosts Gabe and Ben. How we doing today, guys?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm ready for episode two. A lot to talk about today. A lot.
Might not be doing as great as you guys, but I'm excited for episode 2 nonetheless. And yeah, there's for sure a lot to talk about today.
There's going to be so much that we're going to touch base on in this episode. I mean, we're going to be diving into it's going to be another football episode. Going to be diving straight into free agency, who's left, who's still around, what's going on. There's a lot of drama going around the league right now. Like this is low-key really nuts for a free
Yeah,
agency. When I didn't expect it to be this crazy, to put it into that perspective. I mean, I've been sitting around. Everyone knows I'm a huge baseball guy. I've been waiting for a baseball free agency, and there's still guys sitting there unsigned. And you're like, this free agency sucks. And then this NFL free agency just comes out of nowhere and just smacks you upside the head. And you're like, what is going on? It's literally insane. Let's get into it though. I'm so hyped to talk about this because it's just so much to touch base on. I know we were going to talk base on some of the top guys who signed so far. So I'm going to start off with a banger, and we're going to start off with Kirk Cousins. What are we thinking?
yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, I think it's just the perfect signing for that Falcons team. Now, the price tag is a little much, but I think with how many teams in the league right now needed quarterback, as you saw a guy which we can talk about later on in Baker Mayfield get a bunch of money. You saw a bunch of backups get pretty large contracts, uh, and there's going to be four or five guys now in the first round of the draft. So there's a lot of quarterback needy teams. So I think Atlanta came in with the mindset is we'll just give this guy whatever he wants. We need him here, and look, I think this Falcons team is as close to a lock as you can get to win that division, in my opinion. I mean, I just think all they needed was a quarterback, and look at the skill positions they have. If they get a better offensive scheme going this year, which I think they will, that team's really, really, really scary. Especially if Kirk Cousins goes back to even like three-fourths of what he was last year. Because last year he was on an MVP level until he got hurt. If he gets even three-fourths of that, that's going to be a really good football team.
Yeah, Gabe, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a good move for Atlanta. But I think Ben mentioned like it was a big contract. I was a little blown away by those numbers. I think what like a $15 million signing bonus or something like that as well. I think I saw that number. I mean, it's just a lot, I feel like. And Kirk is obviously a very solid QB, has had a very decent last couple of years, but he's getting up there in age. And there's that like core group of guys in like the last generation of quarterbacks. I was like, okay, they're no brainers for like guys that they're going to get big deals into their last stages of their careers. The Tom Brady's, Eli Manning's, Aaron Rodgers, even though he's still playing. Those guys were like no brainers, right? They're some of the best quarterbacks of all time. They're going to get those deals. Does Kirk Cousins really belong in that conversation? He's what, like 36 now? He's up there in age, but I mean, nonetheless, I don't think it's a bad idea. Could this be the beginning of the Kyle Pitts redemption arc, right? Like he seemed like he was one of the most talented tight ends in the last couple decades almost coming out of Florida. And like what, just, the offensive scheme didn't fit him or whatever. There's a million different things that you could say. But it's not a bad idea, especially when you have a young quarterback. Is this if they want to continue with Desmond Ridder after Kirk Cousins, maybe he's a good mentor for him. Not a bad idea. A lot of money though.
Looking on it and stuff, it's so interesting. I mean, he's 35 years old now, and when I saw the signing, I was like, okay, I had him predicted. If you haven't watched the first episode, go watch the first episode where we predicted where these guys were going to go the top 10 and stuff like that, and we talked some combine. I predicted him to go to Atlanta, but I thought it was only gonna be like a 2-year deal. I didn't think it was gonna be a 4-year deal. I think, in all honesty, I think four is kind of pushing it, especially when you're a good quarterback. You're not associated in with those guys like Aaron Rodgers, like you were saying, Gabe, in a sense. And you're still coming off of a really bad injury. You don't know how he's gonna play, and you just to me it feels like one of those Deshaun Watson contracts where they're really big and it doesn't feel like it's going to pay off. I mean, trust me, I want to see Kirk succeed more than most people in Atlanta, but I thought for Atlanta their move should have been Justin Fields if anything. And I think it's smarter to go younger, but at the same time, Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback. It's just really questionable to me. But there is some rumors going around Justin Fields at the moment too, with the market, and people are thinking that he's gonna wind up going to a different team for practically nothing at this point, similar to like Trey Lance and those guys in the past. And I keep hearing since the Eagles don't have a backup quarterback that's gonna happen, and I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you, but.
No, no.
Yeah, back
Yeah.
on track though with the whole Kirk Cousins thing. It's not a bad move. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and bash Atlanta for it because it's not a bad move. It's a good move. I think they can make the playoffs as a team because I think they're the best team in that division at this moment in time. Unless if the Buccaneers, go back, they get Levante David back, et cetera, et cetera. Um, yeah, no, it's a good contract, but I guess we just gotta wait, let it play out, see how he fits. I've obviously Arthur Smith's gone, which is a really big deal. Now they're gonna use B. John more, they're gonna use Drake London more. Same with Kyle Pitts, and I really want to see. Kirk Cousins did it in a Minnesota offense, which was also really good in a sense. They just didn't have I wouldn't say like a great running back because Dalvin Cook was good, but I don't think he's on Bijan's level.
Yeah.
Moving towards the next big guy that I got. This one I don't think any of us predicted. Did any of us predict Christian Wilkins go into the Raiders?
No. We did. I think we brought up some other big guys going to the Raiders. Like I think we predicted Chris Jones possibly to go to the Raiders, but I didn't think Christian Wilkins would go there, and I didn't think he was going to get paid that much. I think that's kind of the story of a lot of free agency is the cap went up, and these teams are just throwing that money all around. Um, and I mean that's a huge deal. 4 years, $110 million. That's a very big deal for a guy that does give you an interior pass rush, but not necessarily as good as a Justin Matabuke or a Chris Jones. But I think he could. And I think for the Raiders, this is a huge deal for Max Crosby. Max Crosby was top 5 in double teams faced last season, and he still ended up being top 10 in sacks. So just looking at that defensive line now with him, at Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins, that duo, that's going to be an elite duo. And then if you get their former first round pick from Texas Tech, I forget his name, on the other side.
Tyree Wilson, right?
Yes, Tyree Wilson, thanks. Tyree Wilson on the other side there, if you get him to develop, that's going to be a really scary defensive line. And I really just like what the Raiders are doing as compared to some of these other teams that we can talk about. I mean, you mentioned Chicago with Justin Fields. I just don't get a lot of Chicago's moves. But with the Raiders, I like what they did with that signing. Obviously, as Eagles fans, we know that investing in the defensive line is usually a smart thing to do. So yeah, I mean, I really like the signing. I think financially they probably had to do it because there is a lot of teams in for his services. I think the value of interior pass rush just continues to go up with people like Chris Jones, the impact that they have, especially like on the Chiefs, which he also got paid. What was it, 5 years, like 160 or something? He resigned. I don't know where the Chiefs got that money from, but yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders could compete next year if they figure out the quarterback position, which is kind of the story for a lot of teams because I like their defense that they're building.
Yeah, what do you think, Gabe?
Yeah, same page where, I mean, we knew that the Raiders were in the market for, new defensive linemen. I believe I definitely remember one of you saying that it might not have been Christian Wilkins specifically, but one of the big name D linemen was going to Las Vegas. But like Ben said earlier, these guys are getting paid. Like, I did not think it was going to be this serious, but I mean, it was a big year, obviously, in terms of free agency for that position. So it kind of makes sense that they take that big jump. But like, geez, these guys are getting paid. I didn't expect to see those numbers. Yeah, it's a good move for Vegas if they have the cap space, which of course they do. So that's what I got.
Yeah, the thing I really like about this move specifically is Antonio Pierce is a very big defensive head coach. And the good thing about a guy like him is, I know Ben's heard me say in the past, I really wanted him to be the Eagles defensive coordinator. I'm really happy with Vic Fangio, but Antonio Pierce really knows how to grasp a locker room and he knows how to just rally up his players. So when you add a guy like Christian Wilkins who had a really good year in Miami, I think it's just a perfect fit alongside Max
Yeah,
Crosby. And it is a
yeah. I mean,
Raiders move to be more specific, but I don't think the Raiders are done on moves yet either. I don't think that's going to be their only move. Or at least I
yeah,
hope it's not their only move because they're one of the only teams like if I was there watching a football game, like if I was live, I would watch it, but I don't know if I would watch the Raiders on TV for the specific factor that they don't have a lot of like exciting players besides Max Crosby and Wilkins at this very moment.
yeah. And look, I mean, I think that's a great addition to the locker room as well. I mean, you saw coming into the draft, everybody remembers that clip of him like grabbing Roger Goodell and lifting him up when he got drafted. So he's a really, really great locker room guy from what I've read. Um, so hopefully they can keep Devontae Adams happy because there was questions about how happy he was in Las Vegas with that quarterback situation.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of forgettable too that Devontae Adams is on that team for the sole factor that like, they just don't really have an offense, and I don't
Yeah,
think he really wants to be there. I
yeah,
think he
especially
wants to
because Josh
be,
Jacobs is gone.
yeah, he probably wants to be a Jet at this point.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, there's still rumors with David Bakhtiari going to the Jets at this point in time too. So I guess we'll wait and see. Now time for the fun. Time for the fun. We're gonna touch base on some Saquon
okay.
Barkley.
Oh, are
What
you
are we
ready for?
thinking?
Am I ready?
So let me go here because Chris is going to hate my take on this. I like the player. I like the player. I'm a big Saquon guy, but I think this is a horrible deal. I think this is a really bad decision and really bad deal. I don't like a 3-year contract, especially at that AAV. Um, it's just I don't think it's a good deal to sign a running back for that long. Honestly, I don't like almost any of these running back contracts that were signed. The only ones I like are the Derrick Henry deal. It's a 2-year deal, and I think he fits perfectly in that scheme. I think Saquon fits well in our scheme, but he has a long injury history. I don't think he's going to see out that 3-year deal, and I just think that's too much money. Now, did they have to pay him that amount of money? Probably, especially with how much Josh Jacobs got paid, and I think Saquon is a very similar level to Josh Jacobs. But I don't think the Eagles needed to make this rash of a move. I would have much rather them spent this cap space on the defensive side of the ball. Uh, does this make their offense even more scary? Yes. Was it their offense already a top 10 unit in my opinion before this? Yes. So does it help them? Yes. Do I think they could have used the assets in a better way? Yeah. I'm really if we're giving grades for a signing, I give this a C. I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest. And I know your
Now,
Chris disagrees with me, but I look, I'm a big I don't know.
before I go into my whole rant, if we didn't sign him as our running back, who would you want? Rapid fire
I
me
mean,
with one. Who would you want?
I I would have liked to sign Derrick Henry to that contract. I like the Derrick Henry. I would have. I like the player. But it's not about Saquon Barkley. It's about the years and the amount of money for the years. I would have liked Zach Moss for that contract, 2 years, 8 mil. Do you see Zach Moss last year?
Yeah, but I don't know if I'd want Zach Moss as my RB1.
We also do a committee in Philadelphia. You know, they have those guys. You know, boss. I mean, they have a bunch of guys here, so I just don't think you need to pay a running back that amount of money. I think Nick Sirianni went to Howie and was like, I want this guy, and Howie threw him a bone. I don't know why Howie changed his philosophy on the running back position and not the positions we really needed on defense, but that's just me. I get it's fair enough if you like the signing, but that's just my opinion on it.
This is really interesting, honestly, to look at. I mean, when I look at it myself, I love the signing. I'm at first, before it even happened, I kept saying, why can't we just get back Swift? Why can't we have Swift back? Cheap. He's from here. I was totally fine with having him back again, on a cheaper deal. And then the Saquon signing happened. I remember I was home and stuff. I ran downstairs. I told my dad while he was working. And I mean, coming from somebody before the signing who kept hearing it and was like, I didn't want to spend this kind of money and was hoping that they would spend it more on the defense. But then they signed him and they're still planning on getting guys in the defense. I'm more than happy with it. They're still in big talks with Justin Simmons. They're still in big talks with CJ Gardner Johnson. They signed Bryce Huff. I'm more than happy with Saquon Barkley being added into this team. And Howie Roseman is sitting there glaring at the rest of the league with a literal infinity gauntlet, just putting stones in there one by one, saying, yeah, I got these guys. Guess what? I got a top 5 running back now. And when he's healthy, he destroyed the league with a horrible O-line. I think this is a perfect signing, and I don't like that people are bashing it in. Now,
I
Ben,
don't think
before
that many
you
people are
go,
bashing it, other than me.
before you go, I need to hear the opinion of a New York Giants fan. Let me
Yes.
hear it. Are you siding with the rest of New York that is saying, you betrayed us, we don't like you no more, we're burning your jersey, blah, 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 blah? Because keep in mind, he did go to Penn State, and he's still considered they call him now Pennsylvania's finest for being an Eagle now. But let me hear it.
Well, I mean, first off, it's just like it's devastating for me because that was the guy like that draft, that number 2 overall pick. He was like, I mean, obviously he was the future for our franchise. He was supposed to be the one that was supposed to carry us into our next quarterback situation and just win games for us as a running back, which is like hard to do. So it's devastating to lose somebody like that. And I gotta side with Chris here, where like you gotta put the injury past and the numbers, like you can't let the numbers fool you. This guy is just so unbelievably talented that when you watch him 17 games of every season, potentially more when we made the playoffs, he's just like so unbelievably talented. And yeah, sure, he has his trouble with injuries. He played on a turf field 8 to 9 games every year. It's not an ideal situation. He's playing on grass now. And I know like there's all the stories of like, oh, he mostly got injured in away games and all that stuff. Turf doesn't help, right? Like playing on turf most of the time doesn't help. And yeah, it is what it is. Now that he has that grass field, hopefully that helps with his injuries. I wish him nothing but the best. I hate the fact that he went to the Eagles, but I really can't blame him at the end of the day. He was born in the Bronx, I think, right? But I think he has more ties to Pennsylvania and maybe not Philly specifically, but just the area. And it really hurts. Any other of the 31 teams, or I guess 30 teams, because we were out of the race probably. I think the contract, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you don't want to pay a running back a lot, but Saquon Barkley is not your average running back. I keep thinking of the James Harden quote, I am the system. Okay, is he the system in Philly? Maybe not. Maybe they have their offensive stuff going on. They had their running back rotations and everything that they had before. It's not the typical running back situation where you have your guy and then you have your backup that gets his snaps. But Saquon Barkley is an absolute game changer when he's on the field. And you guys get so much better by this addition. And I think DeAndre Swift is a great running back. Amazing. But Saquon Barkley is just a different level talent-wise. When you see him run the ball with the proper holes in the defense, just good luck trying to stop that guy. He's untackleable. He's unbelievable.
Yeah,
You guys got one of the best running backs in the league. It
To hit
sucks, but it
you
is what it is.
to hit you with a question here then. So you would say, putting yourself aside from the other Giants fans, you would say that like you're not, because I've heard a lot of them like really like bash him in and blame him, but so you're not blaming him at all because the Giants didn't offer him a contract and he took the money and went to a spot where he thinks he'll win.
Well, do we know if they offered him a contract? I don't know what that whole situation is with them and the Giants this year. I mean, we obviously saw it unfold last year, but he was so vocal about give me a long-term deal. I want money. They didn't do that, and now look what happens. He goes to your biggest rival. So
Yeah.
I can't blame the guy. He was completely explicit in what he wanted, and he didn't get that, and now look what happens. Like this, that's the
Okay.
repercussions. That's what we get, you know?
Yeah.
I can't blame him. Did I want him to go to the Eagles? Hell no. I didn't want him to go anywhere close to Philadelphia or Washington or Dallas, but that's what happens when you don't like he's a free agent. He can go wherever he wants. He's his own player. He has his ties to Pennsylvania. It makes sense for him, especially with the money that they're offering and the team that he's with now. I wish him the
Yeah,
best of luck. I can't blame him.
yeah, the Giants this offseason have really confused me. I'm
Me too.
honestly the last like two off seasons, like why did they think, okay, we'll pay Daniel Jones all this money, but we're not going to pay a guy we spent the second overall pick on at
And then
running back,
now we get
which
into the fact. Sorry, I'll let you continue in a second, but it
yeah,
blows my mind even more that we signed Devin Singletary, who isn't bad, but now we decide to improve the offensive line with Devin Singletary in the backfield and not Saquon Barkley. Like, what's going on here?
yeah,
We had our
yeah,
priorities, or we needed to set our priorities straight with Saquon in the backfield. We didn't do that. Daniel Jones got injured. Saquon Barkley got injured. Tyrod Taylor got injured.
yeah. I
What are we doing?
honestly, I don't even think, honestly, I don't know how Devin Singletary is going to be a starting running back in this league. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think he's a starting caliber running back. I feel like honestly, I'd rather have J.K. Dobbins, and he's still a free agent. So I'm concerned. The Giants. We can touch on another big move, probably the biggest trade so far. The Giants making that trade and then signing that massive contract extension. I'm sure you were happy about that. Uh, Brian Burns, great, great, great player. And he was traded away from probably the team that right now, if you're doing offseason grades, they are in last place in a league of their own in the Carolina Panthers. I'm just gonna look at like the Carolina Panthers GM and owner right now. This is out to you, Mr. David Tepper, the owner. What are you doing? What are you doing? This man refused to trade him for 2 first-round picks and then just traded him for a second. Now, look, a star pass rusher needs a star pass rusher contract. Like, you just got to accept that. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league. They have nothing there now. What do they have? Bryce Young? Who else do they have? Bryce Young is gonna get eaten alive. That might be that team could finish with no wins next season if they don't make some more signings. Because I'm asking both of you guys, like, what does that team have? I just
Nothing.
don't see what they have on that roster.
Nothing. But do you know the funny thing here? You decided to bring up Brian Burns, and I could just see through Gabe's eyes right now that he's happy about it, but he's still like hurt from Saquon and Xavier McKinney. I could just see
Absolutely.
right through him.
Well, the truth is like, yeah, Brian Burns was nice. It was nice for that to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen because at first they signed him, and then I think we traded like a whole day later. So I don't even know if you can call that like a sign and trade. I don't know how that works. They signed him and then we traded for him. It was I don't
Yeah.
like the timetable is kind of weird about that in my opinion. But whatever. He's solid. I didn't know we had that money to spend, to be honest. I mean, I guess it makes sense after losing McKinney and then Saquon, but at the end of the day, it's like we have some big contracts on the team, and that position specifically is like a little interesting to me because we already have Azeez Ojulari, we already have Kayvon Thibodeau, we have some good rushers like Brian Burns. I'm not
Yeah.
complaining at all, but we're paying him what, like $30 million a year or something like that, right? It's a pretty big contract.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. I like the player a lot. I like the move. it's just like maybe we should have focused on a free safety instead, or maybe we should have done something else
Yeah,
with the money. We had the 39th overall pick, which I mean, I'm for Brian Burns, yeah. But like there's some other things that we could have done. However, I do like it. So I'm not gonna
yeah.
complain.
I
I think it's
think
a
they're
great
on.
move,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. I think they're trying to in that on that side of the ball. I think they're trying to kind of do the Eagles thing where they just get a bunch of really good depth at pass rush. I think they have probably the second right now, based on last season, and I like Dallas's defensive line the best, and then I like the Giants the second best, and then the Eagles are right behind the Giants. But I really like Sexy Dexy, Kayvon Thibodeau. I think now that he's the number 2 edge rusher, he'll do a lot better than he has been, and I like what they're doing there. I just don't get like how I don't get why the Giants haven't attacked the wide receiver position. I mean, it's you guys probably had one of the worst wide receiver cores in the league, and you haven't done anything to address that yet. Now, maybe they're thinking of drafting a wide receiver, and everybody thinks you guys are drafting a quarterback. I hope you draft JJ McCarthy. That would be really funny. Uh, do I? Are we going to do a mock draft today? No, that's for a future show. But if you guys don't draft a receiver or sign one of the guys that are left, which we'll do some predictions on those guys later, I'm very concerned on the offense in New York.
I'm not as much, but I'm gonna let Chris go first, and then I can talk about our receiver situation. But I'm not as concerned as you are with that, though I am a little concerned.
Listen, all I know is that I saw a post the other day. The projected offense is Darren Waller, Daniel Jones, Wan'Dale Robinson as wide receiver 1, and Jalen Hyatt as wide receiver 2, is what I saw from a depth chart.
Hey, Gabe thinks Wan'Dale Robinson's going to be a top 10 receiver in the next few years.
Well, I was drafting him pretty high up in fantasy last year, and it didn't pay off. But like, I do think okay, he is shifty. That guy, like that guy can move. Wan'Dale Robinson is. I don't think he's like a future superstar or anything, but I think he's a solid wide receiver too. If we go wide receiver in the first round this year, which I think we should, and we probably will. Um, I think they're just banking on that 6 overall pick being wide receiver. I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be. I mean, who knows? We can mess that up real easy. But I'm thinking that we probably go Neighbors. I don't think Marvin Harrison's going to be on the board by that point. I mean, he won't be on the board, but I don't think we're going to trade up for him. But I think we're banking on that 6 overall pick being our wide receiver 1 for years to come. And Jalen Hyatt is really fast. I think that even underestimates that. Wan'Dale Robinson is a good wide receiver. He's very shifty. And, I mean, the way I see it, he's like a better Kadarius Toney in the way that he like moves like a joystick almost. And I think the wide receiver room is not going to be great, but again, with Darren Waller, hopefully less injury problems this year. But who knows with that guy? Like, I think we're going to be okay at that position. I'm fine with not being perfect. We're far from that, but I don't think we're also going to be as bad as some other teams are.
Yeah, moving along a little bit just for time and stuff, I wanted to touch base on 2 last guys who signed, as in Patrick Queen and Bryce Huff. Is Patrick Queen in the same situation as Saquon Barkley? If like what are we thinking here? Because I'm seeing Ravens fans destroy him as the same way the Giants have been destroying Saquon. It's like, oh yeah, have fun. You might be playing in Pittsburgh now, but have fun trying to tackle Derrick Henry. It's not gonna happen. They're destroying him. Like
Yeah,
what's going on there? And I did see a video earlier about whenever he played the Steelers, Mike Tomlin would go up to him and say, "You don't belong there. You belong in the yellow and black." So maybe Mike Tomlin did some sorcery in the background because apparently that started in 2020. So what
yeah,
is going on exactly with that situation?
yeah. So I'll touch base on that situation, and then I'll get into the other excellent signing by the Birds.
To throw it out there,
Uh,
by the way, that was also rumored that he was going to go to Seattle. So I don't know what's going on. Seattle's stuck playing with no linebackers at this point, but go on.
yeah, I really wish the Eagles would have spent the Saquon Barkley money on Patrick Queen. I'm a huge Patrick Queen fan. I think he's one of the best linebackers in the league right now. That's a coverage guy, right?
And he's young.
Three,
He's real young.
yeah, he's a young guy. 3 years, 41 million is a decent chunk of change for a guy that really doesn't pass rush or doesn't at all. But that Pittsburgh defense, man, scary stuff. I mean, last year they were already a top 10 unit when they were healthy, and they weren't that healthy most of the year. If they get healthy in the offseason and continue to stay out relatively healthy throughout the season, again, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but if they get that quarterback play, which another free agent, they got Russell Wilson. Do I think he's gonna help them? Yes. Do I think he's a top 15 quarterback anymore? No. But look, that team's gonna win like 10 games. We all know it's gonna happen, and then we'll see if they win a playoff round or two. I don't think they're Super Bowl caliber right now with the quarterback that they have, but I think they could win a playoff game or two, and I think that's an excellent signing. Just like the Eagles signing Bryce Huff. When I saw the connections, I was really hoping and praying that it happened, and it did. And I think at a pretty solid number. 3 years, 51 million, which is not that expensive for a guy that they think is going to be a number one pass rusher for this team. Now, what they do on the other side of him is a real question. Are they going to trade both of their starters from last year? Or are they going to keep one of them? I believe Josh Sweat is as good as gone at this point. I mean, I was looking on the Josh Sweat fan page, and he commented, "Goodbye, everybody." So I think he thinks he's gone.
I was going to bring that up just to cut you out, but you
Yeah.
already touched base on that, so.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny, but also sad at the same time. But yeah, I mean, I think, look, this Eagles team has their beliefs when it comes to building a roster, and they'll stick by that. And I think this could end up being a really, really good value contract, similar to the one they signed however many years ago with Hassan Reddick. That contract has been exceptional value. And I think this is a very, very similar guy. They both were coming off a year where they started to finally excel. And then they get to Philadelphia and they get in the defensive line room and they just go. I mean, they don't have to worry about run stopping. The only issue with Bryce Huff is he's a really, really bad run stopper. But if he improves that and continues with his get off speed that he has, which is near the top of the league, I think he could end up being a 15 sack a year guy, which would be great value for this contract.
Yeah, Gabe, what do you think on both of those signings?
Yeah, so first with Queen, and just like the idea of going from from Baltimore to Pittsburgh, you're seeing it become more of a business than it's ever become before. And
Not to cut you off real quick,
yeah.
but to throw it out there, I feel like the Steelers and Ravens rivalry is a lot worse than the Eagles and Giants. That's just my personal opinion.
I was gonna say, yeah, like I grew up in a different rivalry, so I don't really see that that Baltimore and Pittsburgh rivalry the same as I do with my Giants Eagles one, but I mean that it could be worse. Like, yeah, like that whole division over there is like it's intense. And but I think just the idea of the player, Patrick Queen going to Pittsburgh, there are certain franchises, and this also kind of goes back to Brian Burns, that there are certain franchises that I feel like focus on defense just over the course of their history. And like teams change, of course, but I think the Giants and Steelers are two of those teams that I see so frequently just focus on the defensive side of the ball, and that's how we won Super Bowls, and that's how they won a few Super Bowls too. And I think it makes sense to kind of keep that tradition going and play that like tough kind of football. And I mean, Patrick Queen is a pretty good player, and we'll see what happens when he has to try to stop Derrick Henry. And then also going to the Eagles with Bryce Huff. I just have one thing in my notes here, and it says, I love it. Just because now that Daniel Jones can't just dump a short ball to Saquon Barkley, it's going to be fun trying to see him run away from him. So we'll see what happens there.
That's kind of funny. I think the Bryce Huff signing is such an underrated one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, he was second in pressure rating, I think. Second,
let me
which
see.
is insane to think about. That's insane, especially if he's going to be lining up alongside Reddick, and they're going to wind up moving Sweat and figuring out what they can get for him. And yeah, I think Sweat's more long than gone, if anything. But the touching base on the Patrick Queen signing a little bit, that's a great signing for a team that's runs so heavily on their defense. Like, TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, Cameron Hayward. I mean, they're just such a good defensive team. And when you add another guy like that, I'm hearing Steelers fans say that this is the best linebacker they've had since Shazier, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I think it's a really good signing. Moving on, let me know when you have that number, Ben. But moving on a little bit, I want to give a quick shout out. Obviously, if you know, the three of us go to Temple. I want to give a quick shout out to Matt Hennessy signing with the Philadelphia Eagles. Back home, baby. Give a nice shout out to Deion Dawkins. That was a huge extension for a guy like that. What do you get? 20 mil a year, 60 for 3 years. That's just great to see those numbers. And Brandon McManus re-signed and staying in the league. I thought he was going to wind up retiring, but staying in the league, another year deal with the Washington Commanders. So shout out to those guys. Do you have the number, Ben, or no?
No, I don't have Pro Football Focus for email, but according to this article I'm reading, he was top 10 in pressures. So
I think he was number
rate,
2
so.
off of a chart I saw yesterday, but whatever.
Yeah.
Now here's time for the other fun part. Our fan player of the week. And we kind of talked about it before the show a little bit, so it was kind of funny. But I picked Saquon for obvious reasons, and Gabe picked Tiki Barber. So before I even let him go, Saquon owns Tiki Barber, and it's not close. And how's Tiki Barber going to talk so low on the dude when Tiki Barber doesn't have a Super Bowl? And once he got kicked out and retired, then they won a Super Bowl. What's going on there with that? Like, how are you going to talk so bad on a dude because you guys did offer him a contract? What's up with that?
See, I wish I could just like come at you right now and start attacking you, but like I really can't because this guy Tiki Barber is just like, who knows what's going on with the guy. He said that Saquon Barkley is dead to him. And like I understand it, there's that whole rivalry, there's that fierceness between Philly and New York. But I think the game's changed. And like even if the game hasn't changed, you're getting offered a significant amount more money, or even just like a contract where we might not have even offered him one to begin with. And it's football. That's just how stuff works. And then I also, I think right before he retired, he said something about Eli Manning probably not being successful throughout his career. And then look what happens, right? This guy, just don't listen to what he says.
Is Tiki Barber a clown? Would you say Tiki Barber is a clown?
I can't call him a clown just because he was a very good running back for us. But I mean, maybe let's go back to what I said about Shaq a couple weeks ago on our week 1 episode, where he's staying in the media for maybe sometimes the wrong reasons. I think he was a good player, and I think his legacy might now be more about calling Saquon dead than being a good running back and calling Eli Manning unsuccessful or saying that he was going to be unsuccessful. I think Tiki Barber just needs to chill, have fun in retirement. Saquon Barkley is a much better running back than he probably was talent-wise. Let the guy live.
To add something funny onto this, I remember me and my dad were talking about it all day yesterday, and he goes, "That's why his brother was better than him." I'm just sitting there laughing so hard. I'm
Yeah.
like, no way my dad's out here dropping bombs on Tiki Barber. But that was so
Dude,
funny. Ben,
yeah.
who did you wind up picking for your player of the
Yeah.
week?
Yeah. I'm just gonna add something. I also dislike his brother. His brother like cost us a chance to go to the Super Bowl, by the way. So screw the Barber family. I'm not a fan of him. I don't know if we're fans of him on the show, but you know, if either of them want to come on the show and talk about their past, feel free. But with that being said, I picked Kelly Oubre of Sixers fame. He got in a scuffle with Isaiah Hartenstein and Dante DiVincenzo, and he had a funny post game press conference where he said, "I just laugh because nobody's gonna fight," because he basically just called them a bunch of weaklings to be on the PG side of things. But I just think it's really funny because I think Kelly Oubre would just destroy Dante DiVincenzo, and I love Dante DiVincenzo. He's a great player,
That's
but
funny.
I don't know what it is with like the New York sports teams right now, but they just all want beef with like the Philly sports teams. I don't know what's going on, but
Come
it's
on,
really
Gabe,
interesting.
get your people, dude. Get your people, man.
Well,
What's
he's
going
not a Knicks
on?
guy. He's not a
And
Knicks
somehow,
guy.
somehow we're just gonna like, obviously a fight is a much bigger deal than the final score of a game, but like the final score of the game was like 79-73 or something like that. It was
Screw
like,
that.
Yeah,
I want to know
what
who
is going
knocks each
on?
other out first. I want to know
Yeah,
yeah.
who's
I guess
knocking
so.
each
Yeah.
other out
And
first.
and fun fact, they both had a day or two off, and they play again tonight.
Tomorrow, tonight. I thought it was tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay,
tonight.
tonight.
They play again tonight. I'm ready for like maybe not a Malice at the Palace
Chaos.
2.0, but I need some chaos. I need somebody to get thrown out. Like Kelly, if you get thrown out and we lose, I don't care. I just want to see some chaos. I mean, obviously I want us to win. It's kind of an important game, but I just want to see chaos. Like this Sixers team is kind of dead in the water right now unless they get their star guys back, which Tyrese Maxey is coming back, which is big for them. But I just like watching chaos. I'm going to be honest with you, good boys. Like watching chaos in professional sports is one of the best things. Like
Yeah,
And
it's
if your
and
team
not
isn't
that
going
you
to win,
guys
you want to see chaos.
not that you guys don't have anything to root for because you're still firmly in the playoff spots and all that, but I mean without Joel Embiid, let's have a little fun
Yeah.
sometimes, right?
Yeah.
yeah. Moving on. So I wrote down a list of free agents that still have yet to sign. And I want to touch base on some of them and just where we think they're gonna go and what's going on. I mean, I'm gonna start off with my personal favorite. I'm not joking when I've texted my two close friends who always get sources to me like that, and I've literally checked my feed about 50,000 times today, and I am not kidding. Justin Simmons, and all I keep hearing is Eagles, 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 multi-year deal. It's all I'm hearing. I see all over Twitter. I see no other team in the race for
Yeah.
this guy as of this moment. And I'm freaking out because this is exactly who I've wanted for a little while now. Either him or CJ Gardner Johnson, I'm more than happy with. So what is going on? Like, do we see this happening? Do we see this being a Howie Roseman move and moving in and snagging up, such a really good safety and replacing Kevin Byard with someone like this?
Mm, I think so. I'm just reading now that there's a report that the CJ Gardner Johnson deal is stalling because both sides are being wait, let me read the quote. They're
Between him and
both
the
sides are
Eagles?
being Yeah, they're both being stubborn, according to sources. That's what it says. They're being stubborn, which I think is just a funny way of putting in an NFL contract negotiation. Um, I do think Justin Simmons will end up being an Eagle. I think it needs to happen, and I think how we saw last year that the safety play was not very good. I personally would prefer CJ Gardner Johnson just because I feel like he fits really well with what our corners are.
We've seen it
They
happen
they
before.
but at the same time, Justin Simmons is also really good. He just doesn't get force as many turnovers. I like turnovers; they're great. But I think he is better. He has more range, I would say, than Gardner Johnson, which I think could be useful with the older corners that we have in Philadelphia. So I do think he will end up being an Eagle. I'm hoping it will be tomorrow just to get it out of the way, because I do think there's other free agents that Philadelphia would like to start negotiating with. I think they could use some more depth at corner, possibly. And obviously, linebackers. Breaking news, by the way, Levante David just signed a 1-year deal to return to Tampa Bay, 1 year, $10 million.
I called that.
Yeah, I also figured that. I thought he would sign a multi-year deal, but
he was actually one of the guys I had listed right here.
Yeah,
that we were going to touch base on too.
Yeah, so just breaking news there. But yeah, I mean, it's starting outside of the safety position. There's not a ton of star players left. There is one, which I'm assuming is on your list on the defensive line, that is going to get a ton of money, but I'll wait until after Gabe discusses what he thinks about the safeties right now.
Yeah, I think it's when you see that stalling going on, it's never a good thing for a contract situation. So I think it just makes sense that they go to Justin Simmons. But and this is not being biased or anything, I do think that the Giants could be a contender in that race as well. I mean, obviously we're in the market for a free safety now as well.
You could have Jamal Adams.
Okay.
He fits in well.
Yeah, sure. But I do think without our second rounder now, having that sent to Carolina for Brian Burns, I think drafting a starting safety is probably out of the picture, going third round or later, unless they're, just we strike gold. So I think Justin Simmons probably goes to Philly and we're stuck looking for somebody else. So yeah, I have Justin Simmons going to Philly.
What about CJ?
CJ? Yeah. Maybe there's potential there for us. I mean, I see us being in the market for a safety and not drafting one, like I said previously. So I think CJ is a possibility, especially maybe just the pettiness. We didn't get into the lock situation, the Drew Lock situation with us, which I think is maybe a petty move on our end, with like the whole Jalen Hurts thing last year. But maybe the pettiness from organization says let's take one of theirs back. So I think CJ could come to us. I don't think it's likely, but I think we're in the market for a safety. So I think it's a possibility for sure.
Yeah, Ben, the player that you're referring to, are you referring to my guy, Danielle Hunter?
Yeah,
that's what I thought you were talking about.
According to reports, is looking for $30 million a year.
Yeah, I did see that today, actually.
Do you want to hear my? I don't know if you want to hear my prediction as to where he's going to go.
I wouldn't pay him that money, but I'm still sticking with my prediction of the Bears.
I wouldn't either. And you know who's been really quiet? The Dallas Cowboys. Tennessee, the Dallas Cowboys.
Take it back right now. Take it back right now. If one thing all three of us agree on, it's none of us like Dallas. Take it back right now.
Yeah.
They got to re-sign Tyron Smith before they think about anything else.
I don't think they have money. I don't think they have the money to do it.
Yeah, the only move they made so far was a long snapper. That's all they've done so far was a long snapper. Yeah. I kind of laugh about it.
I don't know why. I don't think the Cowboys have the money to do it, honestly. But I just feel like the Cowboys have to do something, right? Like,
that's not a move for them. That's a Chicago move. That's a Chicago move. Gabe, you would agree it's a Chicago move?
Maybe not Chicago, but I don't really see him going to Dallas. I have him going to Washington, actually, another conference rival or division rival, I should say. I think when you lose two guys like Chase Young and Montez Sweat, you got to rebound, and I think that it makes sense.
maybe Carolina, because they didn't want to pay Brian Burns. They just got the assets and they're
If
going to
you
use that
really
money
want to
to
touch,
pay.
if you really want to touch base on a quiet team who really hasn't done anything and should be making moves right now, why is no one saying Arizona?
I have him down here
I
some other.
I don't think
Remember,
they're
I
right now.
predicted on our first show for Brian Burns to go to Arizona, but
The Cowboys thing was just a crazy take. I don't think that's going to happen. Realistically speaking, I think he could be a Tennessee Titan. They need they need pass rushing help. They have the cap room. They have a rookie quarterback contract. Well, he's not a rookie, but they have a rookie contract. And look, they could pay it. I think Daniel Hunter is one of those guys that sounds like all he wants is money. He doesn't care where it is, whatever team
so
offers
you
him the
like
most
him
money.
lining up with Jeffrey Simmons?
I think, yeah, I think like I said, I think you got to get some interior pass rush with Jeffrey Simmons, and then if you have Daniel Hunter on the outside, you're not going to double team both of those guys, and it would just help both of them.
Yeah, you ready? You ready for the next fun player? Because I have a really fun thing with this one. So I did just bring up Tyron Smith a few minutes ago, and I'm bringing him back up because the funny thing here is
Yeah.
I love the Dallas downfall. Now they got no running back. You waited too long. Your best option's J.K. Dobbins, and you could have that. He'll get destroyed by the Eagles D line. But moving forwards, I'm still sticking with Tyron Smith going to the Rams. Watch. They need a guy who's older, who can mentor this young O-line, and he fits perfectly right in there. Tell me I'm wrong.
I think you're wrong. I think I like Tennessee a lot for Tyron
You keep
Smith.
saying
And I think
everyone's going to Tennessee. What the heck, man?
I said because
They're getting the
Tennessee
whole
has a lot
league.
of money. They have a young quarterback, and they need to be aggressive. If I'm their GM, I think offensive line is one of their biggest needs.
Why would you go after an older offensive lineman when you have so
Because
many holes?
because
That's a
you
Rams
need to
move. Rams are
you
in
need
win
to
now mode, dude.
no, you need to protect your quarterback. You need to help him develop. They have Andre Dillard. You bring in a Tyron Smith, you can help Dillard
What is
develop.
Andre Dillard gonna do?
He's going to develop behind Tyron Smith.
Oh,
He started this year. He was not ready. You let him
He's not
develop
ready
even
because he's
more.
not talented.
Well, you could say that, and I could agree with you on that, which I do. But I'm just thinking with the Titans GM hat, I think they need to sign an offensive lineman, whether that's Trent Brown,
They can
Jonah
get
Williams.
Trent Brown is a more likely move for Tennessee than Tyron Smith. Way more
I
likely.
I think Tyron Smith is another guy that's going to take as much money as he can get, and I think Tennessee has a ton of money. I don't think the Rams have a ton of money to be giving out. Matt Stafford's getting paid a lot of money. Do I love the fit? Absolutely. I think that would be a great fit for Tyron Smith. I just don't see it happening personally. What do you think, Gabe?
Well, I've seen some rumors of him coming to New York, but not to us. I think he might be going to Jets maybe. Yeah,
I keep hearing David Bakhtiari though because of the sole factor of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, we know he has that influence, and it's very possible, but I think there's some other guys that they might try to get. I mean, who knows? Devontae Adams might still be on the table if he's unhappy with, Las Vegas situation, and with limited cap space. I mean, you're paying Aaron Rodgers how much every year? I think that you might just try to get the best guy available, and you have potentially one more year I don't know if it's a Super Bowl contending team, but a chance to do something at least. So yeah, I think why not go Tyron Smith to the Jets?
Yeah, it's interesting. I still think he's gonna be a Ram though. I think it's a perfect fit for a guy like that. Looking at a few other guys real quick. What's going on with DJ Reader? Any updates on that anywhere? It's a great player. It's a great player. I don't think anybody's really, or at least I haven't heard anybody's offered him anything.
Yeah, I don't think he's going back to Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati has a lot of cap issues.
If he was going back to Cincinnati, it would have happened already. That could be an Arizona signing too.
Yeah, DJ Reader, I could see him. Wasn't he on the Texans at one point? I feel like he was on the Texans. I might be wrong, but either way, I feel like, a team like the Texans could use him kind of similar to what the Browns have done. They've just signed some veterans on the interior of their
Darius
defensive line.
Smith re-signing and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Darius Smith, they signed Shelby Harris. They signed Maurice Hurst. So
Mhm.
I think if you can get DJ Reader on a cheaper deal, maybe, a 2-year,
I
$25
think
million
he's still
deal.
really young too. He's not old per se. I think he's probably
Yeah.
sitting in like the 28 to 30 range. I don't think he's that
Uh,
old yet. So whoever gets him, I think, is getting a very good quality player.
he's I think he's 30.
He's 30
29.
now.
So
Oh, 29.
29.
Okay.
yeah, there you
Yeah, I
go.
Yeah.
said in between 28 and 30. Yeah, it's a good quality
Yeah.
player for whoever's going to get him. And I think he probably wants a
Yeah.
long-term deal.
I don't think he's gonna get necessarily a long-term deal. I think that
I think he's good enough to get a
he's
long-term deal, like a
he's good.
4-year.
He's good enough. The issue with him is he's not a pass rusher. And I think the value of interior pass rushers is so high right now that guys like him aren't valued by many teams. And you had a guy like Grover Stewart who is DJ Reader but better. And then you have so much depth that position as a run defending defensive tackle is so deep right now in the league that I feel like a multi-year deal for him is not realistic. But I think he would be really good for Houston. Their run defense wasn't amazing last year. Their pass rush is really good, but I think they need help on the run D side of things, however you want to say that. So I think he would fit really well with Houston, but I also think he'd fit really well with a lot of teams that are on the edge of that playoffs. But I think my prediction here is Houston.
I think I'm going to go with Arizona. I think it's a nice fit. They would offer him a 4-year. I think it would help build on that defense. What do you think, Gabe?
Well, originally I had Cincinnati just because they showed interest in re-signing him, but I mean, I've been seeing
It's
how long this
taken
is
too
taking.
long for
Yeah,
him to go back.
absolutely.
I don't
And
feel
I
it.
think I'm agreeing with you guys now. Seeing that the Lions and of course the Titans, because Ben thinks that everybody's gonna go to Tennessee now.
Ben's secretly a Titans fan on the side.
Yeah, I think that's the second team. I think that's what's going on here. So why not? Why not Tennessee? Why not give Ben one?
Ugh.
Guys,
There's two.
I promise I don't like the Titans, okay? I'm not even that big of a Will Levis guy. I think they're gonna be aggressive over these next few days here. I'm just making my predictions, boys.
I'm sorry, and I hate to bash in a dude who's really young and has barely done much in his career, but Will Levis, you are not him. Hate to break it to you. You are not him.
Ben, quick question for you. How much mayo do you put in your coffee?
Disgusting.
He
probably puts plenty since he's a Titans
I think he
fan.
does.
But moving on, I have two guys left that I wanted to touch base on. I'm going to save the fun one for the last. Chase Young, I'm going to start with, though. What is that? Like,
Chase
he
Young
fell off a cliff.
Yeah, I think he's kind of done in this league, to be honest with you.
Arizona.
But I'm going to be honest with you. He is a Carolina Panther. I've seen if the teams he's connected to are the Titans, the Panthers, and the Saints. As of now, at least those are the teams he's had visits
Saints
to.
don't got money. Saints don't.
Yeah, but he's going to. He's not going to sign. He's going to sign a 1-year deal. That's what's been reported. He's not going to sign a multi-year deal. He's going to sign a 1-year prove-it deal to try and cash out to where he was. Yeah.
Okay.
Do I think he's gonna? Do I think it's smart? No, because I don't think he's good. I think that injury ruined him. Get off for pass rushers is really important, and his get off has not been the same since that injury. Now, after another offseason of recovery, could he fix that? Of course. Do I think he will? I don't think he will. I don't have confidence in him. Honestly, I don't know if I trust his work ethic, to be honest with you. He just doesn't. You don't hear, those guys that have strong work ethic. You usually hear it. You don't hear it
Derwin
from.
James Jr.
Yeah, you don't hear
Like
people
throw a
talking
name
about
out
Chase
there.
Young. You don't hear people talk about Chase Young like, oh, he's a great locker room guy. He's a leader. He has strong work ethic.
He
You
was
don't
kind
hear
of
that.
just there on San Fran, is what I
Yeah,
thought about him.
he was almost non-existent.
Same with a guy like Randy Gregory. He was kind of just there
Yeah.
in
So
a
I
sense.
think he's going to be a Panther, and I think people are going to forget, or he's going to be out of the league in the next like 2 or 3 years. To be honest with you, I know it sounds crazy with how high of a pick he was, but I don't have trust in him, and I think it would be, even though I don't have trust with him, I think it would be smart for the Panthers to sign him to a 1 year deal. Just low risk, high reward kind of signing for them, especially on if they don't get another pass rusher, give him the chance to be your number one option, and who knows what happens.
Yeah, what do you think, Gabe?
Yeah, I had two teams down here. I had Jacksonville and I also had Carolina. And I'm leaning more towards Carolina at this point just because I mean, you can't give this guy a long-term deal, or I mean, you could, but probably not going to happen at this point. And I think after attacking Josh Allen, I mean, I don't think they want to have two guys that they have to deal with next year, especially if they're going to sign him to a 1 year deal. I think he's going to go to Carolina, especially with just who knows what's going on over there. They need somebody on that team, even if he's like really unpredictable. I think he's going to the Panthers.
I'm still sticking with my draft pick that one way or another Jacksonville is going to take Jared Verse. I
Yeah.
don't think they would go after somebody like Chase Young. I think they would fulfill that with someone young and promising and isn't hurt very often. Touching base on the last guy, though, you bring up Jacksonville. I'm going to bring him up. Calvin Ridley. I keep hearing it's such a Patriot signing. But how is it such a Patriot signing if this dude is still talking about wanting to go back to Jacksonville, which makes no sense to me because why are you going to run on wide receiver core? Gabe
Yeah.
Davis, Christian Kirk, and
No.
Calvin Ridley. It just makes no sense.
He's 100% not going back to Jacksonville. There's also two other wide receivers I want to talk about because they're kind of interconnected with what I think is going to happen. So T. Higgins, I think he is going to get traded away. I think to Carolina. Yes, I agree with you. I was going to say that. Carolina, he will be their number one. They need a receiver for their young, hopefully for them, stud quarterback. I don't know. I'm not going to judge him based off last year because that team was a dumpster fire last year. There was nothing he could really do. I think he will get traded and sign a pretty big extension in Carolina. I think Calvin Ridley, it's just so hard. There's so many teams that could use a good receiver. It's really difficult to project where he's going to go.
I'm going to throw another guy in the loop here while you're thinking on him, Marquise Brown.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I was thinking about those two guys. I think they have a lot of similar things. Look, I think Calvin Ridley could be a Patriot, and I don't like the prediction, but I think the Patriots are going to look at a guy like that and be like, and think similarly to Jacksonville and be like, okay, well, he could be a one. He could be.
Guess what,
worst,
Calvin
he's
Ridley?
a two.
Guess what, Calvin Ridley? You're a Patriot. Guess what, Marquise Brown? You're a New York Giant. Have fun with your new teams.
No. Marquise Brown is not going to the Giants. They have too many guys like that.
Marquise Brown would be the one there.
You know where Marquise Brown would be really scary?
What are you gonna say?
Kansas City.
Bro.
Could you imagine? I don't think they have the money. But I'm not. This isn't a prediction.
I had a weird. I don't know why, but I really thought you were gonna say Eagles there, and I was gonna be like, "What?"
No.
We already got our 3 today, bro. We got Devontae Parker.
Yeah. I mean, where is he? Like,
okay, why don't you like Marquise Brown on the Giants? What's wrong with it? He's consistent.
Consistent is not what we need. That's the problem there, right? We have
what
a
do
bunch
you mean?
We have a bunch of speedsters on the team. We don't need somebody that's gonna just be just as fast as everybody else. And I just don't see a superstar receiver. I mean, I don't think anybody sees a superstar receiver in him.
Maybe
I
And that's
get
what we need
that,
to
but
go
then
for.
you can draft a wide receiver one, someone like Malik
okay,
Neighbors to play alongside him, and then you have your choice of Jalen Hyatt or Wandale Robinson at your
no.
three.
So you're
Here's
saying,
my prediction. Okay, sorry. Here's
yeah,
my prediction. Interrupt your weird debate about him. He's not going to the Giants, buddy.
He
He
should.
will be a Chicago Bear, and I think you get Marquise
No.
Brown with DJ Moore. Marquise Brown with DJ Moore, and then they signed. Did they? I believe they signed Gerald Everett today. That's a
Yeah, that
start
makes
of a
no
good
sense.
offense.
That signing makes zero
Why?
sense.
They need a
You have
receiver
Cole Kmet. Why are you signing Gerald Everett?
because you want a two tight end system. That's what a lot of teams use nowadays.
The Eagles don't run a two tight end system, and we're totally fine.
Well, we did before, and it worked, and it won us a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was years ago, but that signing makes no sense to me.
There
But
is no comeback. He knows I'm right.
that signing just doesn't make much sense
By
to
the
me.
way,
But
I just went on Twitter to search up Marquise Brown, and like half of the tweets are him connected to the Chiefs. I did not even know
Giants,
that.
no Chiefs, Giants.
I just don't think.
Also, what am I reading? Sorry, I just saw one of the weirdest tweets ever. Presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy
Where's
Jr.'s
this one going?
his press team reached out to Aaron Rodgers about joining his ticket as his vice president.
Yeah, okay. That would be something.
That sorry, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I
No,
just
but
thought
that
that was
had to be
so
said though.
funny.
That just had to be said.
I'm like, what am I reading right now?
Yeah, this free agency is weird for the guys that are left. It's weird because we don't know where any of them are going. I mean, there's still guys like Kendall Fuller too
Also,
who are just floating
Dak
around.
Prescott, Dak Prescott has a lawsuit against him right now from a woman, so that's we'll see
Yeah,
where
I
that
saw that
goes.
earlier. Actually, I did see that earlier.
I mean, we know how the NFL is with that. He'll probably get like a 2-game suspension, and then everybody will forget about it because the NFL is horrible when it comes to. I could go on a rant about how dumb the NFL is with suspending players. It makes no sense to me. Like anyway, but
Yeah,
yeah, what else?
it's weird. This like I said, this free agency with the last little bit of guys that are still floating around, like Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams. We really don't
Yeah,
know where any of these
there's
guys
so
are
much
gonna
depth.
go. Same with Tre'Davious White, etc.
There's
We
so
just have
many.
no idea.
Yeah, Chris. There's so many guys that are like starting caliber players that are still available, and we already had so many signings. Like, I mean, I know we talked about the depth of this free agency, but now that it's happening, it's just a really deep free agent class. Well, I mean, this has been arguably a top 5 free agency of all time, in my opinion.
I would
Um,
agree.
it's just been really exciting, and it's been really refreshing. Because usually during this time, all I see is mock drafts, but now I all I see is breaking news, and it's great. I mean, I love it. I love that we have an hour and 20 minutes or so of just talking about free agents. Like it's been really good.
Hmm. Yeah, and we're gonna be coming to a close here on the show. We're gonna, just preview. Probably next week we'll do our show. I'm not sure. We'll probably wrap up the last little bit of free agency and then move into the start of MLB. We still are waiting for Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery to finally write a check. What are you guys doing, dude? Stop messing around and just sign with like one of you just signed with the Phillies already. Just call it done. Like I'm tired of waiting. Just enough is enough. You're already
Yeah,
like way too
yeah,
late. Spring training's already been going on. Like just make it happen already. We're just getting tired of waiting.
and
So we'll touch base on that. We're gonna touch base on some of the NBA teams, as they get closer and closer to the playoffs. See how that goes. A team like the Sixers, if they're gonna make it, especially like banking generally just on Embiid coming back playoff time and hoping that they still have a shot with this team, which I don't believe they do. And we'll obviously we're still going to touch base on some hockey. It'll be closer to the playoffs around that time too.
yeah. You know
Touch
what
base on the
else?
Flyers. They're playing great. They got the Sharks game tonight, 7 o'clock. Tune into that. What do you want to say real quick?
Yeah, Chris. So one thing I'm really excited for next week, we're gonna reveal our March Madness bracket. Selection Sunday will have happened, and we're gonna make a little mock draft sort of league on ESPN, which we'll post about next week in the description of our pod next week. We're trying to get a bunch of
We'll
people to
probably
join,
post it though.
but
I don't know if we could do a show on it just because of how long it'll take.
yeah, I think we can. I think on the show we'll talk about maybe our Final Four.
Yeah,
Maybe
we could
predict
do
our
that.
champions.
That's fine.
But yeah, look, I mean, I know you guys are super excited for March. I'm really, really excited. There's a lot of depth this year. Obviously, you got a team like UConn at the top, but outside of that, I think it's going to be a crazy tournament. So I'm looking forward to that next week.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll pretty much be it for the show today. I mean, I just want to give another quick shout out. Temple women's basketball team, keep killing it, man. Keep killing it. Like
Do more.
just
Let's go.
keep doing it.
Oh,
You're doing great. Oh,
I don't know how I
balloons.
did that. I
Well,
don't know. I didn't do
that fit
anything.
in. That fit perfectly in there. But
Do more.
keep it up. You're doing great. Yeah, that'll be it for the show though. Stay hyped, stay hungry, and keep the frenzy alive. This is Chris Borgia, Gabriel Layden, and Ben Lotman, and we'll see you on the next episode.